Okay, so this program, this assignment, has a little bit more complicated, especially compared to the last one, which was a little easy. And the thing is, this one has a lot of pieces going on, but they're really all kind of individual, separate pieces. And if you think about them one piece at a time, it's not that complicated. I think I said that in the sample output already. So let me just show you some of the basics. So I'm just going to show you the bottom part of the code for a second. And this is where you assign, well, this is left over from what the official tutorial has in it. Create a frame and assign callbacks to event handlers. So we've created a frame. That's the basic thing on the screen. And what you want to do is you want to think to yourself, what are the different handlers or the different buttons that you need to do in order to make this program work. And so, for instance, you might say, okay, well, we're going to need definitely to have, man, let's try this again. We definitely need to have a draw handler. And that draw handler is going to be called draw. And then we're definitely going to need to have the ability to mouse click. So our mouse click handler is going to be called click. And eventually we're going to be able to actually be able to drag things on the screen. So we're going to want our mouse drag handler to be called drag. So those are kind of three basic things. And we're not going to need keyboard in this one, though you could create shortcut keys kind of easily if you wanted to as well. Wouldn't be hard to do. So then you would say to yourself, if you go back to the sample one, we're going to create a whole bunch of buttons on the left side of the screen so you can click the buttons to do different things. So for instance, we're going to have buttons for the size of the paintbrush that you want to use. So to create a button, what you do is you just say frame add button. I think that's what you do. Something I'm forgetting. And so when you forget, you go to your docs. Sorry about that. Well, if I'm not getting the internet. Okay, there we go. And our frame has different, here's the easiest one, that our frame has control objects. Yeah, see, frame add button. I knew it was that easy. Aha, we have to give the button a name right here. So we might say that if we're going to make three buttons for big, medium, and small, that big, huh, let's call it big button because I'll show you why in a second. So we add a button, and what do we have to say? Well, we just have to say, okay, that button gets a words on it, and then it gets the function that we want to do. I guess you can set the button's size if you want as well. So if we want them all to be the same size, for instance, you could do that. So it's big, and it's going to run a function that we call big, which is why I didn't want to use the word big here, because I wanted the function to be called big. And if you wanted to, for instance, you could just say, well, I want all my buttons to be 50 pixels so that they're all the same. Right now I'm just going to do it this way to get started. And once you do that, you're off to the races. And you can probably see where that's going, right? And rather than do all of these, I'll just remind you that you would also do buttons for the shapes. So you could do a circle and a square, for instance, and also for colors. So you'd make three different buttons with three different colors. Now, once you have that, you have a whole bunch of different um, functions. And so we have a draw function, we have a click function, we have a drag function, we have a big function, a medium, a small function. So each of these is going to need to be coded. So once you get all the buttons created, now I'm going to show you up here that I have all these buttons, or all these functions created to go along with those buttons. So we have a circle, we have a square, we have a big, a medium, a small, a red, a green, a blue, the ability to click, the ability to drag, and the ability to draw, right? So all of our functions will be here. I've collapsed them all so you don't have to care about the details of what's inside each function right now. You just have to know that each function is created. And what I would often do is put the word pass in each one so that the functions are created and they will work. It won't give you an error if there's the word pass in there. So at least they are there, and you can run the program and make sure that it's working. You didn't forget anything. So of course mine won't run right now because I don't have all the buttons created, so I can't really run it. But if you create all the buttons, you'd be all set. Also up at the top, we're going to have different global variables, and you're going to create those global variables here. We'll show you an example of that when I show you how to do maybe the big, medium, and the small, and then you can get an idea of how to do this. And then finally, there's one last piece. I'll probably show you this again because in case you missed it here at the end of this code. But it turns out if we want to be able to draw more than one thing at a time where things kind of keep appearing, the draw function has to work a little bit differently than usual. Normally the draw function erases the screen and then puts a new screen on. So every 60th of a second it erases what's there and puts a new screen on, which wouldn't work very well if we wanted to keep our drawings around. So we have to make a slightly different way to do that. If you've done the animation badge and you've done the screensaver, you may have already done this. But what we do is if we go to these docs, you can actually see it in here. In this one, is that we have to set the canvas background. So we're allowed to make the canvas background anything we want, but it turns out we can make it transparent, which is what gives us a different effect. So we're going to say frame set canvas background, and we're going to call that transparent. What it will do is it will make a white background, but it will make a white background that doesn't redraw every 60th of a second, so you can see everything that you've done, and it kind of keeps your work. So those are your basics. You should have a whole bunch of buttons, and you should have a whole bunch of functions, and from there you can start creating each thing one function at a time. So let's take a look at how to do that in the next video.